There's really no better way to spend a hot summer night than relaxing in the great outdoors, looking up into a clear night sky. Without light pollution and interference from man-made nuisances like cities, it's not just a beautiful sight that unfolds above us, but it's pretty incredible too. Anyone looking up at the night sky can, without the help of binoculars or a telescope, see things that are as far as 2.6 million light-years away. Not only is that an almost unthinkable distance, but Monash University astronomy professor Michael J. Brown points out, via the conversation, that we're also looking back into the past. Light takes a while to travel to us, after all, so when we look up into the sky, we're not seeing things as they are, but as they were. That means we're seeing Andromeda as it was 2.6 million years ago, and that's some mind-bending stuff. That night sky might look peaceful and a little vanilla, but all of those stars and planets have their own thing going on. And some of them, what's going on in their atmosphere and on their surface is the stuff not of a relaxing evening stargazing, but of toxic atmospheres, impossible to imagine heat, and ice that burns. That's out there too. However, before we begin our countdown, we would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and also press the bell icon. Let's get started. Number 1. HE 189,733b. Look to the northern sky and find the constellation Vulpecula, the little fox. And that's where you'll also find the planet with the distinctly uncatchy name of HE 189,733 bits. If an observer was able to get a decently up-close and personal look, it would look sort of like another version of Earth. The planet, says Space, is a gorgeous, swirly blue orb, but that beautiful appearance is incredibly deceptive. NASA says the blue color doesn't come from oceans as it does on Earth. That's actually a reflection of clouds of airborne silicate particles. In other words, it's not just raining sideways, it's raining glass. Sideways. That's not an exaggeration either. The second part of HE 189,733 bits' terrifying makeup is that it doesn't exactly do light winds. It does constant winds at speeds averaging 5,400 miles per hour. That's 7 times the speed of sound. And just the thought of that is enough to make even the most dedicated amusement park fan realize that they need to give this world a hard pass. As an interesting and slightly less terrifying footnote, it's also worth mentioning that this Jupiter-sized world is also flying through space. 1 year, a trip around the sun, takes the equivalent of 2.2 days on Earth. Number 2. The Ogles. There's no denying that seeing everyone's favorite rebels fighting the bitter cold puts the ice planet Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back up there on the list of sci-fi planets that no one ever says they want to visit. But here's the thing. There's a real-world version of Hoth that's even more terrifying. NASA knows, say researchers from Jet Propulsion Laboratory, via CNN, because Hoth could at least sustain life. As unpleasant as conditions were, they were livable. The conditions on the planet designated as Ogle 2016 BLG 1195 pounds are not so much. Let's put it this way. Liquid nitrogen, says the BBC, boils at minus 321 degrees Fahrenheit. If someone were to be dumb enough to, say, stick a hand in liquid nitrogen, it would do pretty much what it does in the movies, which is to freeze solid and snap off. Ogle 2016 BLG 1195 pounds is even colder than that, with an average temperature of around minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The Ogle, which NASA says stands for the Optical Gravitational Lensing Equipment. Telescopes have discovered other terrifyingly cold planets as well, and the one called Ogle 2000 and 5 BLG 390 pounds. The European Southern Observatory calls it more Earth-like than any other planet found so far. But there's a major catch. The surface averages around minus 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Researchers suspect that it has a surface like Earth, but that it's buried under all kinds of frozen misery. Suddenly, Hoth doesn't look so bad. Number 3. Tres 2b. Afraid of the dark. Make it a point to never, ever go to the Jupiter-sized planet called Tres 2 bits. According to the Harvard Gazette, Researchers aren't sure what's going on with this particular planet, but they do know that it reflects less than 1% of the light that hits it. That makes looking at the planet kind of like looking at a wall painted with matte black paints, and that's just weird. Especially considering that it's so hot, it's too hot for cloud cover. And here's the thing. Even though the atmosphere is filled with chemicals, like titanium oxide in a gas form, that absorb the light, it's not enough to actually explain what's going on here. The authors of a study on the planet say, via space, that one of the likely explanations is a chemical that lowly Earth science doesn't know anything about. Princeton University's David Spiegel explains, it's not clear what is responsible for making this planet so extraordinarily dark. However, it's not completely pitch black. It's so hot that it emits a faint red glow, much like a burning ember or the coils on an electric stove. Wait, what? As if this sort of Satan's soul color scheme wasn't eerie enough, the planet is also insanely hot. Temperatures average somewhere upwards of 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, which finishes off the whole fire and brimstone sort of look. Number 4. Kelt 9b. There are a few things about Kelt 9 bits that should sound familiar to Earthlings. It has 4 seasons, for example, and that's nice. What's not nice is that those 4 seasons are essentially 2 summers and 2 winters, and they're about 9 hours long each. That's because the planet is so close to what Forbes calls the host star, that a year is only about 36 hours long. And that sun bombards the planet with 44,000 times the solar energy that Earth's sun gives it, and it's about 56% hotter than the sun. That all makes for a terrifying amount of heat. During the hottest hours, the planet's temperature hits up to 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and that means the atmosphere is caught in this vicious cycle of destruction. Those hottest temperatures are enough to literally tear molecules apart. According to popular mechanics, atoms like hydrogen form during the cooler seasons, then get superheated just a few hours later to be shredded like pulled pork. They'll reform later, and then the whole cycle starts over again. Scientists feel fairly safe in saying that there's no chance life, of any kind, can exist there, and even if it did, it won't be existing for long. Relatively speaking, of course. The host star, Kelt 9, is kicking off so much radiation that there's a good chance it's going to eventually vaporize little Kelt 9 bits. Number 5. The planets of our microscopy. Most sci-fi movies and television shows have a scene that features characters trying to navigate a ship through an asteroid field, and there's a good reason for that. It's the kind of terrifying that makes your stomach seize up, even if you're sitting safely on the couch with a bag of Cheetos. Don't like all those close calls and near misses? Don't put the system of AU microscopy on any bucket lists. O microscopy is a baby red dwarf star, and as far as the universe goes, it's a pretty close neighbor to Earth, only about 32 light-years away. Sky and Telescope says that the cool thing about the star is that it's surrounded by a debris field, and naturally, astronomers have wanted to try to figure out just what caused this field of orbiting dust bunnies. Along the way, they discovered that the baby star already has 2 planets orbiting it, inside the debris field. As if that isn't bad enough, NASA describes the sun as consistently throwing vicious temper tantrums, bombarding the planets with flares of radiation and X-rays. At least the debris field is visible, so that's a plus. Still, who would have thought that an asteroid belt would be the least frightening thing a planet needed to face in a day? Number 6. MOA 2010 BLG 477 pounds. Everything, it turns out, has an expiration date. And that's true for our sun too. According to space, our solar system will come to an end in about 4.5 billion years as the sun becomes more and more unstable and gets so bright that it turns all the nearby planets into crispy, deep-fried nuggets of nothingness. That's a bit of awfulness tempered by the fact that mankind probably won't be around to see it, but astronomers know exactly what it's going to look like. They've already seen a planet after the death throes. National Geographic says that there's a Jupiter-sized planet in the system called MOA 2010 BLG 477 pounds, which is about 6,500 light-years away. It's still orbiting around a white dwarf, which is the remnants of a star that had previously been much like our sun. before it expanded and destroyed all the planets closest to it. The same thing that's going to happen to our Sun and solar system. Mercury and Venus will almost assuredly be incinerated. There's a lot of debate on what's going to happen to Earth. Incineration is a possibility, or it might just be torn apart by gravitational forces. So that's it for today. If you find this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and share it with others. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new uploads. In the end, thanks for watching and see you next time.